Good evening, Mr. Bodenson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
How you doing?
Just fine.
Good.
Any leaves changing up by you?
Up our way?
Yeah, way up north.
Well, I'm way down south.
Oh, that's right, you are. Yeah, forgot about that.
Looks like Joe's having a hard time getting in. Anyone know how to make him a panelist?
Okay. All right, let me see my settings here. Maria, I may need your,
John's over there too.
Hey, Shona.
Good evening, Doctor.
Joe.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Looks like a long time since I've seen you guys.
I know you've been busy.
Yeah, I was away. I went on vacation.
Whoa,
I had a conflict for the other one, so it was nice. Nice to get away.
where'd you go?
We went to Big Bend.
Oh my God. I'm
Yeah.
probably the only one who knows where that is.
Have you been?
Oh, about 20 times, yeah.
Oh, really?
Good time of year to go. Big Bend National Park on the Rio Grande in southern Texas.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Very far from everywhere, but it was beautiful. Really nice.
Did you stay at the lodge? Up
We
in
did.
Chisos? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you cross into Boquillas with your passport?
We didn't actually, but we did cross into Mexico legally, briefly. We went to,
Our chairman's obligated to report that.
oh, yeah. We went down the Santa Elena Canyon.
Oh, my God.
We had to cross into Mexico. What's
Right.
that?
So
long as you-
there's enough water to do that, huh?
Yeah. It was pretty full, actually.
Very.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's see, Carol's here. Hello, Carol.
Hi.
Hmm.
I know Jim Madison will not make it. Joe, hello, Joe.
Hello.
And I think what I don't see on the screen is Elliot. Giselle and Tom Berlander, the only two I can't see at the moment.
Elliot
Yep.
is here.
No, Tom Berland and Giselle. And Giselle was missing a link. I emailed it to her about 5:30.
I clicked on the link that was in the calendar invite, and that obviously let me in as a
Attendee,
attendee.
right?
Yeah, I clicked on the one in the agenda. That was,
And that's an attendee also. Okay.
Giselle's here.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Giselle.
How
Hello.
are you?
Doctor, that's a picture of the mouth of the Santa Elena Canyon where you just canoed.
oh, yeah. Oh, wow. One there. Yeah.
We got to meet and compare notes. That'd be fascinating.
You're getting a
Yeah.
little creepy, Ron. You're getting a little creepy.
Well, you know,
It is. It is.
I keep track of all of you.
Welcome to our October 7th planning meeting and travelogue. Okay, I don't see Tom Berland yet. But it's after 7 o'clock, so I'd like to get started. And with that, I will call the meeting to order of our October 7th, 2021 meeting of the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission. First order of business is a pleasant one. I'd like to welcome, and for those of you who haven't met, introduce Aaron Mannix, our town planner. This is our first meeting with our group. So welcome aboard, Aaron. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to join this group and looking forward to all of our work together. I think we have quite a bit. So I'm on week 3 and have had a little taste of everything thus far. Trying to get organized as far as what our internal operations in the department, as well as other broader planning responsibilities and projects that we're looking at. So yeah, I'm here, happy to meet with any of you or have conversations. I'm sorry that we're not meeting in person. This is a little
Different.
yeah, it's a little odd this Zoom, but we're all used to it at this point. So just, I guess, to tell you a little bit about myself, I previously, I transferred from the town of Guilford. I was, my role was the zoning enforcement officer and the inland wetlands enforcement officer. So I do have a zoning and natural resources background as well, and had some opportunities to be involved in the planning end of things. Our most recent projects in Guilford were an extensive overhaul of our zoning code. So that has taken up the last year and a half of all of our free time. And we ended up with a pretty good 300-page document ready to present to the commission at the time of my departure. So I'm hoping that the town planner will see that through. And I'm sure at some point we'll be taking a look through our regulations as well to see what improvements we could make to our code. And before that, we'll be looking more at our POCD. I think that's our next real charge over the next year.
Perfect. Well, I said-
I am a Madison resident as well, just to, so this is quite a privilege to have this opportunity to work here in my town as well.
And I think that's an advantage in itself, having a little flavor for what's going on in town and
Sure.
how things work and who people are. So that, I think, gives you a little advantage, not advantage, but a plus to make it a little easier settling in. But indeed, welcome. And I encourage everybody who are over in the vicinity of Town Hall, call first probably. I know Aaron's busy, but stop in and say hello.
Absolutely. I'm here.
Maybe even get John DeLore to buy you a cup of coffee while he's there. So to get on with the other parts of the agenda, what we have next is, as Aaron's settling in, and we didn't know at the time John Gutkowski was taken on board, how long it would take or how long it would be. So as I understand it, John's contract with the town runs through, is it January, John or Aaron?
Well, to be clear, there is, I guess, money been set aside. We run basically month to month with the town. So, the perfectly legitimate answer is to, go our separate ways if I'm not needed. But I think the selectmen and the town board of selectmen have set aside the funds. So it's up to this commission on if you'd like to put those to use.
And appreciate that. But the thought was, as he's working with Aaron, I won't say assisting her, but what's the right word, Aaron? As a consultant to you.
Sure. Yeah, of course, John. He's quite helpful.
We're going through swatches. She wants me to repaint her office.
Great idea. That there may be some other tasks or projects, as long as he's with us and he has the time, at Aaron's direction to work on. So we wanted to talk, or Aaron wanted to talk a little bit tonight about several of the things she think, if time and conditions permit, that John could pitch in and help with, and perhaps for some projects get a running start on. So with that, Aaron, what do you have? What are you thinking?
So we did have some initial conversations to see if we wanted to direct John to any particular projects. initially, we focused on the 2021 legislative changes that occurred over the summer to see if there were any amendments that were needed to our current code for utilizing John to help draft those. A couple came to mind, the accessory apartment language. I did ask John to take a look through to see how far off the proposed statutory language was. And I'm not sure how familiar, if Dave had an opportunity or John over the summer to give the commission an update as far as what the legislative changes were that occurred and how they may impact our zoning code. Overall, we did go over them on a staff level, and there aren't too many, to be quite honest. There is an opportunity. Madison has accessory apartment regulations currently. The state has also included in the statutes language defining accessory apartments and parameters that towns essentially will have to adopt should they not choose to opt out. And municipalities can opt out of these requirements with a 3/4 vote from the Planning and Zoning Commissions, as well as the Board of Selectmen. And that has to occur by January 1st, 2023. So as that has a time clock on it, that was one of the first items that John started looking at to see how different Madison's regs are from the draft statutes. And just in our discussions today, and John can kind of elaborate on that if you'd like. We're not too far off, actually, from the language. Madison has quite, I guess lenient isn't the word, but accommodating accessory apartment regulations currently. Some towns that have more restrictive regulations may opt out of the state language, but that is a question that the commission should look through. We could do a comparison to let you see what the statutory language will be effective as of January 1st, 2023, compared to our current language, so that you could get a sense of any potential changes, and if you are interested in adopting that language or sticking with your current code, or perhaps coming up with something completely different. Although I'm not sure we would steer you in that direction, but yes, the option is there. So that was the first item. There's another as far as parking requirements for multifamily that the commission and the town in both Planning and Zoning Commission and Board of Selectmen have an opportunity to opt out of. I don't believe that, which of course I don't have the paper in front of me. I don't believe that actually will adversely affect our current regulations. So I don't believe there's any requirement or need for us to opt out of any of the statutory changes to parking requirements. And John, am I forgetting any others? I think that was it. There's some
Amongst
basic
amongst the
enabling
statutes itself.
language.
Yeah.
Right, the updates. I think those were the only two that I wanted to really bring up.
Right. There was some, in Public Act 2129, there was also a change to the manner in which a town can regulate quote unquote character.
Yes.
But that's not something that necessarily requires an immediate overhaul of the zoning regulations. It would just be something that as you proceed with review of applications, you are careful not to base your decisions exclusively on the word character. However, it's defined that we tie it to objective contextual standards.
John, can you elaborate on character in various different contexts as far as how that can be perceived or what you're cautioning us against?
Well, I'm not cautioning you. I'm relaying how the state statute changed. So there was part of 8-2, which is the zoning enabling statute. There were the basis upon which municipal zoning commissions could make decisions or regulate different uses in different areas of town. And one of the phrases that had been part of the zoning enabling legislation was the phrase "quote unquote" character of the district, and that had been used, that which is theoretically a relatively neutral and theoretically appropriate standard by which to determine orderly development of the community. However, over the course of several decades, there had been a long history and a bit of an ignominious history of that phrase "character of the district" and community character in sort of various iterations to be used as a blunt instrument for municipal zoning commissions to deny things that are somewhat civil rights matters. Denial
Well,
of.
That's why I asked. I mean,
yeah.
that sounds like a double-edged sword.
Yes, it is. And so what the change to the statute tried to eliminate as much of the squishiness of the word character as possible, and they changed that to I think objective or physical characteristics.
Physical site characteristics.
Yeah.
Right.
So so it's if you don't want a type of development, it has to be something about the physical characteristic of the development rather than, well, it's going to bring those type of people that might change our town's character or something like that. They tried to make it a slightly more objective standard. But again, I think that's not necessarily something. I think we should do an audit of the regulations. But I think that's really more of a how you folks behave rather than what the regulations say.
So the latter of your explanation is not something that crossed into my mind. The prior is how I perceived it as, does it fit into our POCD?
Right. And that, I think this commission, in my experience, has done a pretty good job of judging it exactly against the wording of the POCD and the intent of the POCD. But I can tell you it probably wasn't necessarily, with Madison in mind that the legislature chose to change this. There's a fairly widespread phenomenon amongst a lot of communities in Connecticut and, well, frankly, around the country, but Connecticut in particular.
Thank you.
Anyway, does it, and yeah, and if I can, as long as I've got the floor, I think Aaron and John Delora and I talked through a lot of potential zoning tweaks, when it comes to, content neutral signage or site lighting, impervious coverage. There's all sorts of like tweaks that we've identified. But I think Aaron's wisdom, and I think I agree with this, is that it may be because the zoning regulations should follow the plan of conservation and development. The plan of conservation and development is coming up for update, and maybe a more appropriate course of action might be to sort of keep a track of a lot of the things that need to be fixed, but basically do a single omnibus overhaul of the zoning regulations that sort of fixes it all at once we have established new goals in the updated plan of conservation and development, rather than sort of take a piecemeal. Well, let's have John work on signage this month, and we'll fix signage, and then next month we'll work on lighting, and rather let's fix it all at once. Would sort of the bottom line. And really the things that Aaron mentioned, multifamily parking and accessory apartments, are really the only time sensitive ones, because the state did put a clock on those for 14 months from now.
Right. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Okay. That seems like the plate will be pretty full anyway. Are there any other areas that commission members would at least put on the list for possibly looking into? I see Peter Roos raising his hand.
Yeah, I guess a comment I would have is that, as part of the Affordable Housing Commission, and John's familiar with this, one of the things that those documents have often discussed is areas of opportunity for affordable housing in various cities. And I know that this commission had had discussions back in December on opportunity areas. We hadn't taken it that far. I'm not even sure we had said yay or nay on, I guess we said yay or nay on a few, or at least kept them on the list. And I'm wondering, as we roll through this process and have to come up with a plan for affordable housing, if just having another set of eyes on that list that was done at the time would be helpful.
Go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, no, I was going to pick up on that. The Ad hoc Affordable Housing Committee could be another avenue where we could utilize John's services. And I have reached out preliminarily to the chair to have a conversation of that nature, to see if initially the committee would be, interested in having someone on board to help guide the process and ultimately write the plan. So we do, I do believe we have some flexibility there, and perhaps John could be a great resource. And maybe that could be the best use of John at this time for us, as we do have to, the town does have to adopt a plan by June 1st, 2022. So we do need to get moving. I know that the committee is working with SCROG as well. And then, Peter, as you know, you are a member of the committee as well, correct? Yeah.
Right.
So, and I know that there was a desire from my initial understanding of the committee to have individual surveys from the town and some true reach out just throughout Madison and not necessarily on a regional level, so that we could identify specifics to our town's needs. So yes, that I'm glad you brought that up, Peter. I think that could very well be a good opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. I talked to Sarah as well, and I think there is a real desire, particularly bringing in John's background, having done, Essex and Old Saybrook's plan. I think there'd be a lot of help there.
Great. So we'll continue those discussions and see what we can work out as well, and hopefully
We'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. and bring some of those ideas to the committee and to John.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? No? The thought just occurred to me that if John were to be working on the affordable part of it and looking or, kind of brainstorming general locations that may be appropriate, may not. Another issue we've looked at, just to keep in the back of his mind, is he's looking at properties or areas. We have that opportunity zone that we had started to work on. We've kind of put that on the back burner. But that's another, project that was in process. Not that it's that important, and not that it's something should displace any of the ones that were just spoken about, but just keeping that in the back of your mind if there's any overlap between looking into one with the other. That's all.
Okay. Ron, opportunity zone meaning residential development or increased density? What specifically was the commission, just to update myself as far as?
All things. It's in the POCD. We started looking at it. For example, the one that pops into the front of my head is the property at the corner of New Road and the connector with the Horton sign on it.
Right.
What potentially could be developed there, what might be, appropriate there, and trying to take steps to make it appropriate for for some type of development, whether it happened to be residential or commercial or mixed or something different.
Right.
But it's one of the parts of the POCD that was being followed up on. And I don't know, how many did we have? Does anybody remember? It was just kind of.
Yeah, Rob.
Am I the only one that lost that?
No,
Everybody
I
froze
got
for a
as
minute
well.
there.
Peter, you froze up. What were you?
Oh,
saying?
sorry. I have the list here. It's about 20 names. And I was just, it's still unstable. And I was about to send that to you, Aaron, so you can see
Thank
it.
you. Excellent. I appreciate it.
20 properties, but not that many different areas. Am I right?
Right.
Pete? Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll follow up on that.
Now, all right. Well, thanks, Aaron, for working with John on that. And thanks, John, for the work you're doing and going to be doing to help us through this and get a running start on some of them. Third item on the agenda, it was, I guess, kind of an update on recreational marijuana in that the selectmen had it on their agenda at their last meeting, and there was some discussion. Aaron kind of, give her credit, she went in there with not a whole lot of background as to what we have done or other things in town that have taken place. And there was some Q&A. So would you care to give us an update on that, Aaron?
Sure. The first select woman had asked that I be available to attend the Board of Selectmen meeting to at least advise the board on the steps that the commission had taken with respect to the temporary moratorium. So I did. I updated the board, let them know that that you had previously discussed this, move to make the amendment for the temporary moratorium for the 9-month period, and that it is scheduled for public hearing on October 21st. And essentially just letting them know that at this particular time, with the Planning and Zoning Commission's actions of this text amendment, there wouldn't be any necessary Board of Selectmen action to further put that pause button on the process, that this would be sufficient. I think there was some question. The town of Guilford had done a temporary moratorium through an ordinance. And so there was question whether or not it should be an ordinance for a temporary moratorium or through the planning, through the zoning text in the zoning code. And I do agree with John's guidance to the commission that it should be a text amendment in the zoning code that's consistent with previous temporary moratoriums that the commission has put in place, similarly for the medical dispensaries as well. Yeah, essentially this puts the pause, as you had discussed at your last meeting. You're aware of what our role is. This buys time now for this ad hoc marijuana legalization committee to gather members and to start their process as to education for our residents and potential townwide impacts. Not necessarily just their focus is a little broader than the zoning regulations. Zoning is specifically for the retail establishments and the cultivators and the micro cultivators. The committee as a whole will be looking a little broader as far as other implications legalization could have on the town. And so hopefully with some of their guidance through the committee that they'll be able to come to some recommendations for the commission where you'll be able to either have text amendments for a process for legalization and permitting via special exception, or moratorium, prohibition essentially of the retail use. So we'll move forward. I don't want to get into a real substantive discussion with the commission ahead of the public hearing. I would recommend saving that for our next meeting for opinions and things like that. But this was just to kind of update you to let you know that the Board of Selectmen are aware of your process at this point.
Right. Well, I watched that segment of the selectmen's meeting, and a couple of questions were asked, or at least came into my mind, that maybe need a little clarification. Number one is someone asked, why is a moratorium necessary? They're not going to be giving licenses out to probably the middle of next year, perhaps longer. So what's the sense? And the reason that the rationale we used as a commission was that right now, there isn't anything to restrict or prevent a recreational retail marijuana store from applying for or taking out a permit, actually, to do so. And so to be proactive and prevent that from happening, a moratorium would prevent that from being slipped in. And in fact, Aaron made me aware today that in East Lyme, a week or so, someone who owns a piece of property who intends to file for a license submitted an application to the planning and zone, or to the town. I don't even think it goes to planning and zoning for to open a retail marijuana store or operation. So that's the thing we're trying to prevent from happening, because if they did it today, theoretically, potentially, maybe 1 in 100, but nonetheless, they'd have the right to stake that claim, and there wouldn't be anything in our regulations to prevent it. The second thing was, and it ties to this, that someone made the observation about the ad hoc committee, and yeah, they come up with a recommendation, but planning and zoning is the one who makes the decision. Is that right? And that's somewhat of a, I don't know, it was a trick question, but the fact of the matter is, it was the Planning and Zoning Commission who requested from the selectmen that they form an ad hoc committee to look into the matter of retail sales in particular, and cultivation for that matter, but to get input by the interested parties, or, youth and family services, police, economic development, the public, as to what we should or should not be doing. And taking that advice and implementing it one way or the other. So we're waiting for the ad hoc committee to finish its work. And we'll use that as our roadmap for what we may change in our zoning regulations. And finally, Aaron, I think it should be emphasized that our hearing in 2 weeks has nothing to do with the retail marijuana sales itself, whether you're against it or for it, or the reasons that you support it or you don't. This is strictly about putting the moratorium in place, correct?
Yes, this is just a temporary moratorium.
So that opportunity will come, if we ever get to, when we get to addressing it through zoning, which is after the ad hoc committee has finished its work, and hopefully, on or before 9 months from now. So I want to emphasize that it is not we're not taking the pulse of the community on whether they think it is or it isn't a good idea. That comes later. Right now is to put it on hold while the community and all the interested parties discuss it and advise us as to what's the most prudent course of action.
Right. We may have people come speak for or against, and so we'll listen and
Sure we will. But it's about moratorium, nothing
but
more.
it is, yes, correct. It is, this is essentially a pause button to further understand, this is a massive bill, and to allow the town some time to further understand and get a hold of potential impacts and how to handle them.
Yeah, I think our charge responsibility is rather simple. It's far-reaching and important, but it's simple. Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then where? I think the broader issue, and the one that may be a little more complicated, and it doesn't involve planning and zoning, is the ordinances that may be necessary, is to where it's permissible to smoke it, where it's not, and things like that. I just read in some of did you see that email I sent you this morning, Aaron?
Yes. So yes. So in municipalities of with a population of residents greater than 50,000 residents that, and which I didn't have an opportunity, Ron, to go back into the actual bill to read that, was that there was a requirement in these larger cities essentially to provide, should you allow for the retail sales, that you would have to provide a location where smoking would be prohibited or would be allowed. Excuse me. So yes, which clearly is not Madison, as we are not that large. So we won't have to tackle that.
Well, it's essentially, though, an issue that the ad hoc committee could, you could, and I'm not suggesting we do, don't get me wrong, but it's another one of those issues that has nothing to do with P and Z, but has to do with town policy. And the town, if it chose to, could identify, this area will be the only area in town where it's permitted. It's not mandated they do so because we're less than 50,000 in population. But there's a number of small satellite issues that revolve around this legislation that don't affect P and Z, but they certainly affect the town. And that's another one of the benefits of having a committee, look at it in some detail. So I'll leave it at that. Any comments from anybody?
I
Joe?
do. Aaron, prior to you coming on board, I had volunteered to be either liaison or a member of that ad hoc committee. And
Yes.
I'm more than happy to donate my time to you to help you in any way possible to liaison between the two committees. I've already done a little bit of homework, if you will, talking to not only my own children, 4 of whom have gone through this town school system, and many of their friends, to get a pulse on what their feeling is on where we stand with this. And I have some interesting feedback to share with whomever is willing to listen.
Great. Yeah. And I'll check in as far as who we have so far who has shown an interest of serving on the committee as well, how far off we are from getting started here.
Okay.
So thanks, Joe. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay. That pretty much completes our business day as far as I can see. I don't have any comments myself other than to say again, welcome, Aaron, to the town planner's office, and glad you're with us. And we look forward to working with you. And John, is there anything you want to say?
Nope, happy to have gotten the chance to hand off the baton to a much better runner than myself.
Thanks, John.
Too nice. And Aaron, do you have any comments?
No, I look forward to, we'll get to some real business, I think, at our next meeting here, and start moving some things along and some applications. We do have some things coming down the pike. This is a little bit different as far as the role and how you separate a designated planning, discussion meeting versus zoning business meeting of hearing applications. So I'm open to looking at, and working with you in this forum, or if you're interested in handling any other land use matters or actual applications at your first meeting as well, should we not have other planning matters to discuss. So that's, procedurally, I think in looking forward to 2022 and our calendar schedule, maybe that's something that we could discuss at a later time as we start looking. I think I've seen some slight confusion as far as receipt dates and things like that for applications, and just want to make sure that we're doing everything according to statutory timeframes. And in this situation, you get into the fall and colder seasons, and people are looking to get projects moving, and if they're straightforward enough, maybe we can bring them to an earlier meeting to help move our applications forward as well, rather than having applicants wait a whole month or so to be heard. So just little things like that. I'm just still very green, getting into understanding how the process and how things have been processed internally in the office here. And so I'm just observing and taking notes, and hopefully setting up some other procedures, and we'll report back to you if I have any other recommendations.
Great.
Well,
Terrific. I would ask, I know we're going to have the public hearing on the moratorium in 2 weeks on the 21st. Are there any other applications you anticipate will be on that agenda?
Let's see. We may have a CAM application. Oh, no, not on the 21st. No, we're kicking into November for some other business. Potentially, if we do have a CAM, I may ask to squeak that in the first meeting of November, as it's a paving project where before we end up having plants close for
Asphalt?
yeah. Other than that, no, it's we have some receipts. We'll have some text amendment application in November as well. So I think this month is going to be on the light side, which will be nice. We'll just ease into it.
Wonderful. I see Carol.
Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Aaron and Ron. For both of you, I was wondering if there are any updates about an ad hoc committee for the short-term rentals issue.
That was
Yeah, I've heard nothing from the selectman's office. We had submitted a memo after our last zoning meeting.
yes.
And have heard nothing about their plans.
No, I don't believe they charged an ad hoc committee at this point. I don't believe it was on the agenda the last meeting I attended. So I'm unclear. I don't believe it's on this upcoming meeting on Tuesday. It may be in October. Otherwise, it could be kicked till November. But they do have that memo.
I understand there's an election in November.
Yes.
No, it could be a bit of a hot potato. I don't know what direction. I know they submitted a petition, some folks down by the shore did. And I wouldn't blame anybody if they said, let's wait till after, all the stuff that's going on right now in the election take place, because you're right. It's a sensitive subject with two distinct camps of schools of thought, I suspect. So. But Carol, to answer your question, we did our part, handed it off to the selectmen, and now the ball
Yes.
is
Okay.
in court to
Correct.
take in and move forward with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, with that, I will then entertain a motion to adjourn from anyone or everyone.
Motion to adjourn.
I think we have Peter and Joel. Any discussion? Obviously none. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Aaron,
Excellent.
now you're.
Thank you all.
Welcome on board, Aaron.
Chance to meet
Great to meet
everybody.
you, Aaron.
These
Good to
people are
meet
your
you
problem.
all.
These people are your problem now, Aaron.
Oh, you don't
Have
gotta
a
wait.
great night, everybody.